Hi, it's Carrie at the Red Pill Shaman. Please subscribe and help me build my channel, and I will continue to provide videos about how to heal your emotional pain, my story about how I healed my emotional pain, and other types of spiritual videos and such, focusing a lot on the value of femininity. So one topic I thought I would discuss is how I healed from my financial abuse trauma. And that's a hard one because it kind of, that emotional pain kind of rested in multiple areas inside of me. And so let me explain how mine started. My parents divorced when I was 5, and my dad was very upset. It was 1975, and he was very upset. And my mom wanted the divorce, and they argued a lot about child support. So, and when they argued and my dad didn't want to pay, how I internalized that was, I'm not worthy of a man providing for me. I mean, that's as a child, as a child, when our parents are unbalanced, not behaving in functional, healthy ways, oftentimes children internalize that as the child is the problem. I mean, there's all this saying that, when you keep, criticizing your child, they don't stop hating you, they start hating themselves, because children learn how to treat themselves from their parents. And when their parents don't know how to love on themselves and model that for kids, then kids learn how to hate on themselves and not love on themselves. And that's, really prevalent today. Anyway, so as a daughter to my dad, that's how I internalize it, is I'm not worthy of being provided for and being protected financially. And I talked to my brother about it, and he didn't internalize it the same way. He's like, oh, I'm just being stupid. Well, he's a man. As little girls, we all dream about getting married and being taken care of. And that's in our feminine nature. And so my brother internalized that situation much differently than me because he's a man. So that's how I started. Less than 10 years old, I already started to believe that I'm not worthy of a man paying for me. So, and that played out in different ways in my life. Not only was I on a mission to make my own money, but once I was married, then I attracted in a man where he let me control the money. And he let me, I did it, and I was controlling. And so he was okay with me being controlling over the money. And I just did everything. I handled all of our loans, handled all of our bills, and I ended up doing everything because I was afraid, because I had that core self-belief that I don't deserve for a man to provide for me. And I, talked to a lot of other women that have that same core self-belief, whether it was taught to them, I don't need a man, feminism, or they experienced financial challenges with their father or other important men in their life. So, you heard me on this channel talk about, in the end of 2020, December of 2020, the first affluent player, the last guy it wasn't a player, the first 3 players, but I had to face my fear. And so my soul organized the right environment for me to face my fear of a man providing for me. So what was I faced with? My first guy, they all make 7 figures a year. And I helped them all tremendously. And I never got paid a dime. And I created that reality, and I accept that I created the reality where I was unable to ask for help. And I could, get into that trauma in a second, which ties into the financial abuse trauma, because, I need to be able to ask, for help financially if I need it, and not just expect that they're just going to know that I need help. And no, I have to be able to say I need help. And that was really hard for me too. So, so being faced with that level of affluence with 3 different men, it was, interesting for me. And I spent a lot of time thinking about, why am I not getting paid? Why am I not getting paid? And really, I only accepted that like last week about why I hadn't gotten paid. And that's because I felt like I didn't deserve it. And I felt like I didn't deserve it because of my dad's abuse. I felt like I didn't deserve it because of my challenges asking for help, which my marriage was, there was significant there. And you know, my family never helped me. I was kind of always the black sheep in my family. And so like I talked in my other video, when I attempted suicide, they showed up at the hospital, but no one was here at the house when I needed them. No one was here. It was just me and take care of 2 special needs kids. But that was the reality I needed. So I would, you know, pick up my bootstraps, get off my ass, and deal with my mental health issues. That is the environment I needed. And so I'm not mad at them for providing what I needed. But you know, it's challenging, and I've spent hours and hours just kind of processing, and why was this necessary, and why was that necessary, and how does that feel, and kind of trying to figure out how I would feel comfortable being submissive in a relationship with the man paying for me. So I don't know if I'll ever be in a relationship like that, but I know that it's extremely challenging to overcome that fear. And I was sexually abused as a child of my dad. And so then I had a fear of all men because of that. So if you add on fear of all men, I don't deserve to be paid for. That's how I internalized it, by a man. And inability to ask for help. What happens in that situation with someone like myself, and I'm highly competent? Well, yeah, I went on and got a master's degree. I learned Chinese. I made sure that I was, you know, taken care of. And when I got a divorce, I got a good job because I had been working the whole time. And then a year later, I moved up 2 pay grades because of my master's degree. No problem. And I do very well for myself. And I own a condo. But all of that challenge made it so that I had an immense amount of pressure on me to perform, and I'm you know, very capable. For me to go from in the end of December of 2020, not even knowing when I'm being psychic all the time, I thought I was just like cracking jokes, or people, how did you know that? I'm like, oh, didn't everybody see that? Does everybody know that? I mean, I use my gifts at work too, and does everybody know? Does everybody see what I see? I mean, can everybody read between the lines? Like I can read between the lines? Like, isn't it just obvious? But no, it's not. And so it's kind of like the trifecta, I guess I would say. The sexual abuse, so fear of men. Then if there's financial abuse on top of that, I don't deserve to be paid for. And as a child in an abusive home, we often think of ourselves as the problem, and asking for help usually gets more abuse. So then you can't ask for help. So how do you climb out of that hole that, you know, I spent most of my life getting into, and now it's, you know, I'm finally, I feel like I'm out of, because I was afraid to post YouTube videos. Like, what if people don't want to hear me? Oh wait, there was one more thing I had to heal from, right? I had to forgive myself for my children's childhood, that's more painful as a parent than being a child in an abusive home, because I've done both. So I can tell you that being a parent who hasn't healed from your trauma, and then you have children and then they have trauma, that's really painful. But my children are extremely successful. My son is an Eagle Scout, second-degree black belt in Taekwondo. My other daughter has her own jewelry business and is really successful at the school. My other daughter is getting her degree in psychology and wants to help other people with you know, with their mental health challenges, and is working as well. And so they're all doing extremely well, and that's the environment they needed to be so successful. That's hard to accept as a parent. And the question that I asked in their video is, you know, if you're not grateful for what the universe has provided, then why should the universe provide anything further? And it always goes back to, how are we gonna solve our emotional pain? How are we gonna start loving on those parts of ourselves as opposed to hating on those parts of ourselves? Like, fear all men, when I found that about 2 years ago and took care of it, my whole reality changed. And everyone around me saw it. I could be in public and not be stressed out. And I didn't know why I was stressed out all the time. I didn't know why I was pushing people away all the time until I saw inside myself and trusted myself to see what's in there. And what was in there was a lot of subconscious lies, a lot of negative self-beliefs. So I have a lot of compassion for people who have complex trauma like I do. And so many people are faced with it, the complex trauma, this day and age. And so it's the same process. Gratitude, be grateful for the challenge, understand the challenge. Why was it necessary? And then forgive. And one thing, a major thing I had to forgive my ex-husband for was when I was 30 years old and I was pregnant with my first daughter. I have a boy and then 2 girls. And her birthday is in December. And in the middle of January, when she was 4 weeks old, I got bacterial pneumonia. I'd never been that sick in my life. And my ex's sister arrived from Israel and was staying with us. But she was taking care of me. Like, I was so sick I lost my milk, and I'm very maternal, like I got a nurse, right? And so I lost my milk, and then went to the doctor. Doctor failed to diagnose me. So that Saturday morning, she had been there a week, and I was having a hard time breathing. My fever was about 103. It wouldn't go down, and I was having a hard time getting to the bathroom by myself. So I begged him to stay. I said, please stay, like I need help. And he yelled at me, told me I was selfish, and left me there alone, and went up on a day trip with the kids and his sister. And I called my mom, and she took me to the ICU, and she and it took me to urgent care that sent me straight to ICU, and I was intubated the next day. I spent 2 weeks on 100%, 2 weeks ventilated, 5 days on 100% oxygen. I almost died. And my husband called me selfish. So yeah, asking for help, that's like a prime example that I always had a hard time asking for help. So of course I attracted in a man in my life that had a hard time giving help. I was an overgiver, so I attracted in an overtaker. So I take responsibility for all of that. It was validating my subconscious beliefs, and only about, only with the last one was I actually finally able to say, hey, do you have any tips for me on how I could monetize my gifts? The 4th guy, all affluent, couldn't do it. Couldn't ask the others, couldn't ask, couldn't do it. Not their fault at all. Totally my reality that I created. So I wish you the best in healing the complex trauma. If you have financial abuse challenges, you can do it. That's a big one, because it just kind of goes into other trauma. Anyway, take care.